First off, I want to thank the grace of heaven and the virtues of the masters and the mercy of the grand predecessor, transmitting masters, and everyone here to talk about. I mean, these are kind of like just, well, they're all from Holy Teacher, Jigong Buddha. These sayings, these guidance, words of guidance or wisdom, and so it's just a collection of them. It's not like one from one long scripture or anything like that. Yeah, so here he's talking about cultivation, okay? So he's talking about the gong fu of cultivation, the skill or ability to cultivate, right? Says the skill to cultivate is built up day by day, so it's accumulated. So it's, in other words, it takes practice, right? Practice makes perfect. You all hear that. It's not like I can give you a formula and you just follow that and you're perfect. It doesn't work like that. So although you can say there's formula, there are all these principles, right, precepts that we follow, but we have to perfect it, right? And so that skill, you can say that skill is built up, in everyday usage and practice of that. All right, so the Buddha, okay, so here he gives a little, there's a story. Buddha, actually, the Buddha had a disciple who was not very smart, okay? Basically, he didn't know how to do anything. And actually, the one I heard is actually that, when he listened to the Dharma, he could not remember it, okay? He could not remember the teachings at all. It's like the next moment he forgets. And so the Buddha told him, all you have to do is just sweep the floor every day, okay? Just sweep the floor. And when you're sweeping, just say to yourself, I'm sweeping the floor, and I'm sweeping the mind, okay, the mind. And the mind must be swept clean. So he did that. I mean, he was able to do that, at least. He couldn't do anything else, but he could do that. So basically, he followed Buddha's instructions. He kept, every day, he'd be sweeping the floors. His fellow cultivators, they kind of laughed at him, right? But he didn't mind. He didn't care. So he just single-mindedly, he basically fulfilled his duty every day. And then one day, Buddha is looking for someone to speak the Dharma, okay? And he saw his disciple and he said, hey, why don't you speak the Dharma? Now, of course, he doesn't know how to say anything, really. But so he went up on the mound and he just basically spoke what Buddha instructed him to do. He says, sweep the floor, sweep the mind. The mind must be swept clean. And then after he spoke, he transcended heaven. Okay, so he basically, I don't know, I guess he attained nirvana or something, or he became at least an arhat. All who were present exclaimed in admiration, right? The disciple just sincerely. So basically, what Holy Teacher is saying is that, the disciple, because he was so sincere and very straightforward in what he was doing, right? That he was focused on that one aspect of, that practice. He doing that over a long period of time, he developed, that capable or that ability to, that skill of cultivation. Okay, so what Holy Teacher is saying is that we need to do the same thing. Okay, we have to concentrate, focus on our practice, on our cultivation. Okay, and then just do it every day, little by little. We will definitely improve and get better. All right. So it says disciples, we all have our own forte or things that we do well, okay? Things that, not everyone does the same thing well. I mean, so each person has their area of, whatever skill or talent. So we should kind of, further, you can develop those or make use of those. So, for example, some people can do the announcing, right? So we have like the primary and secondary announcers. Maybe they can do the announcings very well, or they have a strong voice and a dignified voice. Okay, some people are good at doing maybe the documentation work, the clerical work type of stuff, in the Winsutsu, right? Some people are good at giving classes, as lecturing. Some people are good at cooking, and they're always grateful. Okay, so if we can use our talents and skills along with 100% sincerity, right, and courtesy, then one day we will achieve and be able to reform sentient beings. So reforming sentient beings mean that through our actions, through our practice, our cultivation, that we can kind of transform, influence others that see that, and be able to transform them, and they would also learn to follow and to cultivate. So that's very important. It's not based on what we say necessarily, but of course what we do, right? Because that's usually what they see. And if we, well, there's Buddha or Holy, I don't remember which, Buddha says, what we do and what we say has to match, right? So we shouldn't be hypocrites, right? So definitely, we might say the good, right things, tell people to cultivate, but if we don't cultivate ourselves, then what good is that, right? So, all right, okay, so that's it. And then, so when we were first inspired to cultivate and participate in Tao Matters, right, we were so grateful, even for the opportunity to clean the bathroom and carry out the garbage. But after a while, because of more and more work that required greater concentration and effort, we became tired or exhausted more easily, and our heart and mind became undisciplined and careless. So we must make an adjustment. Yeah, this is true for, I think, a lot of people. They first join or they first start cultivating, they feel, wow, feel great about it. But then after a while, it seems like maybe it's like they feel like they're not making any progress or whatever, and it feels like they start slacking off. And maybe they feel disheartened that they're not achieving anything or whatever. So we have to kind of adjust ourselves. It's like the mid-cycle adjustment and whatever. But make some adjustments along the way. But important thing is, because some people maybe they come into the Tao with some specific purpose. Like a purpose where they want to get something out of it, and usually it's kind of they expect it to be very short term. Or they get it more quickly, immediately. But that's not the case with cultivation, right? It's really a lifetime thing, and so we may not necessarily see the results right away. We have to have that again. So that faith is very important. And perseverance. All right. So from Holy Teacher's perspective, regarding the eternal road of cultivating Tao, right? So he says this road of cultivating Tao is, it's not just for this life, actually. It's, of course, continuously, right? We are here today because we have cultivated previously, right? So it's kind of continuum, not just in one lifetime. If we just view it as just a single lifetime's work, then we're always going to start from zero each time, right? So we have to think, okay, so I'm cultivating and I don't want to let this go to waste, right? And so the next time, I can kind of pick up where I left off. All right. So we must be more farsighted and cultivate and practice until the very end, right? So why must we be farsighted? Because the road of cultivation inevitably has its rough patches. Okay, so no one guarantees you that once you receive the Tao and you start cultivating that things are going to go smoothly for you the rest of your life. In fact, there are many people, well, I don't know how many people, but there are people who encounter some serious, even from very serious obstacles along the way, okay? Hardships. They might get disease, whatever, lose their job, lose a lot of things along the way. But these are all kind of tests, okay? So we can't give up. We shouldn't give up because of those things, right? We cannot achieve by cultivating for only a few years, but rather we must go through many years of gradual nurturing, experience, and painstaking care and effort in order to achieve. Right? Cultivation is a long road. No matter what we do, we must do it without complaints and regrets. So this is very important. A lot of people who encounter these hardships or obstacles on the way, they start complaining, say, why I'm sincere, I'm cultivating, I come to temple every week, why is this happening to me? And again, it goes back to the previous class about karma. We don't understand karma. That's basically why. We have to understand that there is karma, and whatever is happening to us is really, it's what's, well, I say what's best for us, but it is whatever we planted previously. Okay, so we've just seen the results. So that's why it's very important to understand karma. Once we can understand karma, it doesn't necessarily mean that we'll fully, we'll stop complaining, but at least we understand there is a reason why things are happening the way they are. and then that we know, then we learn about the other things like cultivation, performing merits, things like that, so that we can kind of overcome those karma, those the results of the karma. Okay. So cultivation. All right. If we become displeased, then it will be difficult for us to achieve to the very end, right? So yeah. So again, if our attitude is not good, we start getting negative, then we might give up, along the way, or we might only cultivate half-heartedly or just superficially. Then in the end, we've kind of wasted this life because we didn't achieve anything, okay, through our cultivation. Okay, let's see. So so here, let's see. This is another one where Holy Teacher had these 16 questions about cultivation. Right? It says, how can we cultivate if someone's words could cause us to become angry? Right? So this is one thing that is probably very common. It's like, someone says something, offends us or whatever, and then we kind of get angry. So again, this is cultivation we have to get rid of. See, anger is one of the 3 poisons, right? 3 poisons. And the 3 poisons means those are the root of going to the underworld and reincarnation, right? So we definitely need to control our temper, our anger. And so it's just, no big deal. Someone said something bad about us, but, why do we need to get angry? Maybe they're just testing us, or I don't know. But, of course, we should reflect. We should always self-reflect. Right? When people say bad things about us, is it true? I mean, we may not always know ourselves whether we're doing whatever they might be saying that we represent what they're saying. So we need to reflect and try to be more aware and mindful of ourselves. Okay, and what we're saying, what we're doing, what we're thinking. Okay, so how can we cultivate if we only care about our personal difficulties and are afraid others do not understand, while we do not care about others, right? So again, cultivation is about not being selfish. Okay, so if I only think about, oh man, I have this illness, no one understands, I'm always in pain, so it's very difficult for me. But the more we just care about ourselves, not really think about others, it will be very difficult to cultivate, to achieve in the end. Okay, so actually the more, when we think, oh yeah, I need to think about myself and to take care of myself, but actually it's kind of counterintuitive. The more we think about others and help others, that is actually helping ourselves. Okay, because why? We're actually performing merits. We're performing merits in helping others and thinking about others, the welfare of other people. And heaven will naturally help us. Okay, so we don't have to necessarily. I mean, of course, if we are sick, yes, we take the medicine, see the doctor, etc. That's taking care of ourselves, but we don't dwell on it. Okay, so we still, even though no matter how bad we may have it, we still we care about others. Okay, so how can we cultivate if we do not conquer ourselves and look at the big picture, right? So again, it's the self, the little self, and the big self. Right? The little self is the me, the I, the ego, this person I call with his name. But we are part of the greater whole. And so we need to look at a greater whole, that we are part of everyone, actually. We are all one. And so we should definitely be able to overcome this idea of self. This is the false self that Buddha says that, this is the false self, the ego. And so, right, the 4 images, right, or I don't know, 4 images, 4 marks of existence, if you will, the self, right, me, the other people, right, or the me, you, and others, and personality and the life. Okay, so those 4 things. But anyways, we have to kind of get rid of those. All right, and then. Okay, so how can we cultivate if every person, matter, or thing are displeasing to us and our heart and mind is full of hindrances, right? So again, we have to get rid of, why, when something is displeasing to us, we should ask ourselves, why is that, right? Of course, it all boils down to that ego, that sense of who I am, and what I'm comfortable with, things like that. So that's, again, it's a major obstacle to our cultivation and truly achieving enlightenment, right? So how can we cultivate if we are too lazy to make incense offerings and kado? Okay, so this is probably referring to maybe temple hosts who should be doing that every day. Okay, you're supposed to make it morning and evening incense offerings. Okay, I don't know.
Preferably on time.
Yeah, on time too. Yeah. So we can't be lazy, right? We have to. It's a discipline, right? Cultivation. There's discipline. As with any practice, Johnny can tell us, there's discipline in the kung fu, practice. In any kind of practice, there is discipline. We have to have discipline, so we can't be lazy. How can we cultivate in our own views and opinions? If our own views and opinions are deeply rooted, and we always think other people are no good. Okay, so obviously we think, people's ideas they suck. That people are always not doing things well. It's like we're the best, we're perfect. Well, we're not. Okay, so again, this is part of that self-image. We have to get rid of that, the ego. So again, awareness or mindfulness is like one of the keys in cultivation. We have to always be aware and mindful of all these things. Okay. And how can we cultivate if we don't know how to put ourselves in other people's shoes and have consideration for others? Again, that the self, me versus others. We have to always kind of try to view things from the other person's point of view, right? No one has the absolute right view. Okay, there's no, you can say, people have different views. And we have to take that into consideration, that no one's perfect, always absolutely right. Okay, so, and no one's absolutely wrong, right? So we just have to look at things from different perspective and to understand the other person's view. And then that's how we can be in harmony. Okay, that's very important in our cultivation because we're dealing with other people, and with other people, we have to be in harmony. How can we cultivate if we are impatient in doing things? Okay, so impatience is a temperament, right? That's one of our a temperament that we have to overcome, because if we get impatient, then we're likely to get angry. That follows, right? So impatience, again, we have to have patience in doing things, and don't do things perfunctorily. In other words, like kind of superficially, or just without really putting in the mind or effort into doing something right. Okay. Yeah. And then, so how can we cultivate if we are so impatient that we cannot even listen to other people talk? Okay, so this too, sometimes someone's telling us something, and then we're too impatient to listen to what they're saying. Now, there are some people who are like motor mouths. they talk too much and they don't get to the point. And so, yeah, okay. It's okay to say, all right, please get to the point and skip all that other stuff in between, But, this is like usually just normal stuff that people are saying, and we're too impatient to even listen, right? So we have to know how to listen, right? Not just say, oh, you have to listen to me, right? We have to listen to others as well. Okay, so how can we cultivate if we don't know to constantly self-reflect or introspect and repent our sins and karma? Yes, so this is very key. This is one of the very important things in cultivation, is that we have to know how to do this, to self-reflect, look inward, especially when we are being criticized, or some people say bad things, whatever, or giving us advice, then we need to reflect on ourselves and try to accept what they're saying. And that's the only way to kind of improve ourselves, right? To better ourselves. And also, when things are happening to us, we don't know why. It's hard I know it's maybe hard to repent for something that we don't know what we did. But, just like Buddha said, well, what's happening to us now is because we did something previously. And so we have to know that, yes, we did do something previously to cause this. And so there's still something to repent for. And repentance, right? Self-reflection, gratitude, these are things that can change our, what we say, this karmic fate, the results of karma that are happening to us. We can change that through sincere repentance and gratitude, okay? So how can we cultivate if we cannot accept criticism from others? Again, okay, so that's kind of talked about that already. How can we cultivate if we don't know to seize opportunities to learn and enrich ourselves? So yeah, so it's, there's a lot to learn, of course. There's, it's endless, but we should seize every opportunity to learn. Not of course, coming to temple and learning what's taught here is part of that, but we can also read some stuff on our own. Just try to use every opportunity to learn and to further our understanding of the Tao, of the principles of karma, all these things. Okay. How can we cultivate if we do not observe the system and regulations and deliberately try to be different and go counter to it, or how things should be done, right? So sometimes, there's these rules and regulations, there's the proprieties. It's like, oh, yeah, I don't like that. I'll just do it my way. That's, again, cultivation. There's, there are rules and regulations. You can say these are part of the precepts, the disciplines that we have to learn and follow. So it's not to be, we shouldn't just be like, oh, I'm individualistic. I want to be different. We can't do that. Okay, so we cannot succeed in cultivation if that's our attitude. So this is the way it's done. We follow this way. Okay. All right. It doesn't mean that we necessarily blindly follow necessarily. I mean, we can try to, we should always try to understand why it's done this way. We can ask, and hopefully people can explain to us, why things are done the way they are. But sometimes you have these rules, and it's just that we need to follow those rules. Okay, so how can we cultivate if we do not even deal with household matters well? Again, in our home, outside the temple, how we deal with things, how we do things. If we don't, again, if we maybe in the temple, we look, we behave well, we say all the right things, but then outside we're a completely different person, right? So we can't do that. So we have to be, again, the same way. Cultivate, when we're cultivating here, we're cultivating everywhere, okay? We should be the same way, all right? So we should always be in harmony, be nice, and all that, right? How can we cultivate if we seek only a life of enjoyment and pleasure while not getting a taste of varying hardships? Right, so everyone wants life to be very good, easygoing, comfortable, pleasurable, right? But again, that kind of life is not going to help us to improve ourselves, right? We probably get lazier, and we probably start have lack of discipline in that type of life. So yeah, so having hardships along the way actually help us, okay? Help us to improve. So it's only when we encounter this opposite, these obstacles that help us to, especially if we can introspect and self-reflect, to realize that, wow, I need to correct myself. I need to do something better. Okay. So how can we cultivate if we do not give a smile and to greet others or fellow cultivators, right? So again, we this is part of Holy Teacher says, right? We can give it's a merit if we smile at people, greet people, say good words, and it may be a small merit, but it's some merit nonetheless. So if we're kind of like give everyone the cold shoulder, that's no one wants to be cultivating in that kind of environment, right? So we want to have a more warm, welcome environment, just like family. It's like coming home, and where we're all in harmony, and everyone cares about each other. Okay, so those are kind of like 16 questions that Holy Teacher had asked. So to kind of remind us, think about as cultivators, what we should do or what we should not do. Okay. Okay, so now here's a different one here. So these are all pretty short. Okay, so this, actually this one I think is more specifically talking to like the Chongde group temple, but okay, here it says the key to a temple or Dao community's prosperity and decline is in the laxness of temple rules and regulations, lack of discipline, being self-opinionated and admitting to no wrong, selfishness and biases, right? These are all kind of these negative traits that we talk about. So whether a Dao community, a temple, whether it can flourish, prosper, or not, depends on these things, right? So rules and regulations of the temple, right? We all know, and unfortunately, we've been a bit lax here, and we need to improve that. So new people coming in, we can't give them the the idea that it's like coming to a restaurant, you eat, or we come to a market, it's not. It shouldn't be like that, right? This is a temple. It should be dignified. This is a place where we can learn and cultivate. Okay, so that's why the rules and regulations are very important. That we all have to learn those. Especially, the Senior Transmitter keeps saying everyone has to know the arrival and departure bows at a very minimum, right? But there are many other things that we have to learn and follow. So we have to have that discipline. Again, can't be self-opinionated and say, I never do anything wrong. Selfishness and have these biases. Okay, so those are the things that can cause problems in a temple, right, in a Dao community, and create conflict among the people in the temple. So who is a see here it says who is a follower of the unresting bodhisattva? That's that's her title that she turned to heaven. She's part of the Chongde. She was the predecessor for the Chongde group. Okay, so here Holy Teacher says they are the unresting, right? Because her title is the unresting bodhisattva. So he says they are the unresting transmitters, unresting lecturers, unresting temple hosts, unresting staff members, unresting Daokin. Those who want to rest are not qualified to take on the responsibility of being a soldier of the enlightening master of universal salvation, right? So he's saying, well, okay, you have to really put in that effort, okay, to be part of that group, okay, to really take on that responsibility of propagating this Tao. Okay, well, okay, so this is talking to them. All right, here's another one. Okay, so the majority of people are busy day and night to make a living and survive, but they forget about their true nature, which is the Buddha nature, not knowing that they were originally Buddhas. Why, we are just traveling guests in this world. Where does our spirit soul go when this life ends, right? So we don't really, or most people don't really take that long-term view, think about, the afterlife, what happens next. They're just kind of focused on this life and, what I can achieve in this life. And it's usually kind of material things, achieve fame or, wealth or power, things like that. So that's kind of the mundane stuff. So we don't kind of look at the spiritual side of things, so we have to know that we have this Buddha nature, this true nature, and that, so Holy Teacher saying we were originally Buddhas. I mean, in the sense that we all came from the absolute heaven, okay? Our true nature, our Buddha nature is pure. It's the same essence as the Buddha has, okay? So, but there's still a distinction between, what it says when we were originally Buddhas and the actual what we know of as Buddhas. The Buddhas that we know about have achieved that, okay? That we say, they have achieved this title or this status of being a Buddha. The original is that, you can say that's kind of like the original, but they haven't achieved. So basically, we are here today. We're in this world to practice and to try to cultivate and to achieve that the Buddhahood, the real Buddhahood. Okay. So you might say, because you might think, if we were Buddhas before, why would we start committing sins and karma, right? So because we didn't have that foundation of cultivation earlier, right? We were just kind of like infants, like an infant. So like an infant, they can do good, they can do bad, depends. How they're taught, things like that. So again, we're like infants, and then we need to kind of grow up and mature and learn, experience things, and learn and to find that right way to cultivate to become a Buddha. Right? Okay, here's another one. Okay, we have to think about this. The most important thing in cultivation is to cultivate our heart and mind. We must get rid of all defilements, right? The 7 emotions, which they say are the joy, anger, sorrow, fear, love, hate, desire, and the 6 desires, which are through our 6 senses, okay? The 3 poisons, greed, anger, ignorance, and like and dislike, right? The subject-object, this duality. We all are in the same Dharma boat and must be of one mind, or dedicated to the same cause. We are all carrying out heaven's work. While we are cultivating and dealing with Tao matters and people matters, we should not split hair. Don't fuss or haggle over little things. If we fuss over such things, our loss will be even greater, right? So we always, we tend to, argue little things that, I'm right, you're wrong, etc. That's not as important, actually, who's right and wrong. Okay, so what's more important is that we can all get together and get along together, right, and be in harmony and to perform, achieve that common goal, right? Okay, so but it's important that these emotions, right? We have to keep our emotions in control, under check. We don't let our emotions, drive us, okay? Because that might lead us to doing anger could lead us to doing things that or saying things we shouldn't, right? Or we might fall into depression if from sorrow, we just keep going down that path, etc. And then 6 desires, of course, those basically the material things that we come into contact that we should kind of make sure we don't overly pursue those things, become attached to those things. And of course, 3 poisons, right? And it's like dislikes, yeah. So again, this duality of things. Things just are. We should be able to accept things as they are, not say, oh, I prefer this one to the other one, or I prefer this person, I accept this person, and not accept another one. Okay. So because we all have that Buddha nature, so we should treat everyone equally. Okay. So don't argue over things. We think that we might gain, we argue a little thing and say, oh, I win the argument. But in the end, we've lost even greater, which is kind of more our virtue, okay? So that's more important. Heaven sees clearly and records everything clearly that what we do, when we are doing the work of heaven, right? We must be public-spirited, in other words, do for the common good, and not have any selfishness or biases to be a model of cultivation. If we want to be served, then we must have the internal virtues so that we can serve others by way of the virtues, right? So, sometimes we go, because I am more senior, we have other people serving me. No, but we have to have that virtue to go along with it, right? Disciples, we must nurture a great righteous spirit in cultivating Tao, with a public spirit to perform heaven's work. We must not be selfish in performing the works and must not be biased towards people. Yeah. So again, don't be selfish. And even when we're performing merits, right? It's like, now, it's like, everyone wants to, let's say, clean the floor, or they want to do this. But we should, we can let other people do it. But we should do the things that no one else wants to do. Maybe cleaning the bathroom or whatever, So that's really merit. That's virtue as well. So, of course, we should not, again, have bias towards people. So this is the human sentiment aspect that we have to be careful of, that we're not following a person. Oh, I like this person. I like this transmitter. I like this lecturer, whoever. And, so I'll follow this person, and I don't want to listen to the others. That's not good either. Okay, so we can't follow a person, right? We just follow the principles, what's right and wrong. Right. Yeah, okay. All right, I'll just do one more then. I think they're gonna, yeah. So we'll continue until maybe, a little bit. All right. So hope that each of you is full of love. We inherently have this compassion, mercy, and love. We should not lose this love in this world, but rather always maintain and uphold it. We must be gentle, which is to have consideration for others. When others are suffering, we can deeply sympathize or empathize. The more kind and merciful, the more gentle we are, and heaven will love us more dearly. We say that nothing is pushing us, but we are caught up in the binds of reincarnation. If we do not cultivate, we will continue to reincarnate, birth, death, and rebirth. Okay, if we want to be liberated, we must cultivate the unborn and undying, or the eternal Buddha nature. After successfully cultivating ourselves, we will not have to endure the suffering of reincarnation, right? So again, that is, you can say, Buddha's goal for all of it, for all sentient beings, is to attain Buddhahood so that there's no more reincarnation. And that should be our goal too. And so we should strive towards achieving that goal, because, cultivation the reincarnation is not, it's suffering. Okay, so we should do our best to try to transcend the cycle of reincarnation, life and death. All right. Okay. So encouragement we get from others is limited, but so these are these are some kind of one-line guide words. Says encouragement we get from others is limited, but our own confidence is unlimited, right? So again, this is saying that we can't necessarily rely on other people to help us, right? We have to help ourselves. We have to have that self-confidence in our cultivation to push ourselves, right? If we keep relying on other people to, please come to the temple, whatever, cultivate, then if they're not there, then do we give up on cultivation, right? So we have to have that drive to want to cultivate ourselves, okay? So and also have that confidence that we can do it, right? So of course, but it is good to, of course, sometimes we want or need some encouragement from others when we're down and having difficulties, but ultimately it's depends on our own will, right? The basis of happiness is in helping others. The source of blessings is in saving others. Okay, so again, this I mentioned earlier, so that if we can help other people, then we can. So you're saying that So the more we help others, we save basically, or either ferrying others to the Tao. Basically, that's the source of our happiness and blessings. Blessings, you can say, because it'll improve our karma. You can say, all right. We can probably change our karmic fate in doing that too. All right. The preciousness of a superior or noble person is establishing virtues and cultivating. Let's see. Let me see. Cultivating. Cultivating. And is in establishing virtues and cultivating. The precious. Okay, all right. I gotta parse this. Okay, the preciousness of this establishing virtues and cultivating is in gratitude, having gratitude and appreciation. All right. So yes, again, this is very key in our cultivation. If we are constantly grumbling, complaining while we're cultivating, then we're not really cultivating. Okay, so we have to get rid of that and truly be able to appreciate and be grateful, no matter what situation we find ourselves in. Or so that is the noble superior person. Okay, so a noble superior person is easy to get along with. A vile person is difficult to guard against. Right. So someone who has virtue, of course, it's easy to get along with them. But someone who's kind of lacks virtue, it's hard to guard against them. I mean, they can either they can spring surprises on us. Okay. So and they might try to lead us the wrong way if we're not careful. All right. So we have to be careful when we're dealing with those who lack virtue. A superior and noble person accumulates blessings when wielding power and authority, and renders meritorious service with his words, right? So those who are virtuous, and when they are in a position of authority or power, right, because they will do the right thing, they will do good things for others. They won't abuse that power or authority, right? So they will accumulate blessings while they are doing that. And they speak good words. They speak the right words, encouraging words, positive words to others. And that's why, so they are performing meritorious service in doing that. When a superior or noble person hears about the Tao, or hears the Tao, he promptly puts it in practice as well. So this is someone who has wisdom, right? Someone who has virtue. Yeah, when they hear about the Tao, then they know that this is the truth, this is the way, and they want to practice that. Okay, so as opposed to most people who are kind of clueless and they say, "Oh, what's this Tao?" It's like, oh, they don't want it, right? Difficulties are a test of our wisdom, yes, especially now in this white era that we're in. Okay, so it's the time of the wisdom tests, okay, the wisdom trials. And it's really, everything is testing our wisdom, how we deal with things, how we deal with people, how we deal with situations, okay. And so all these difficulties that we encounter, we have to have that wisdom to overcome, our normal human sense of how we would react to things, okay, like with our emotions. So we should overcome that and use our wisdom how to deal with it, and do it in an unselfish way, right? Okay, so filial piety is to let our parents be at ease, to be safe, to be comforted, and to be cared for while they are still living, right? Again, this filial piety is not something that you perform after they passed away. There's not much you can do. Well, I mean, you can uplift if that's a possibility, but ideally is you do it while they're alive, that you take care of them. Okay, so that's why filial piety is very important. The perfect heart and mind is the Buddha nature, the conscience, right? We must gradually cultivate to achieve perfection. Again, so this is not something even the Buddhas, they've been bodhisattvas for countless eons, right, to achieve Buddhahood. So for us, the same way, it's going to take who knows how many lifetimes, how many eons of coming back as maybe, hopefully as a bodhisattva to help sentient beings to cultivate ourselves while we're here to achieve that perfection in the end. Okay. Wishing disciples use their warm blood, it says warm blood, but actually it means righteous ardor to melt the cold blood of common people and use our true heart and mind to resolve or dispel the false heart mind of sentient beings. Again, to try to transform, to try to influence others through our, our warmth, our virtues, to change people, change people's ways and the way we, practice. Okay. Okay, cultivation is not to masquerade as having an ability, so it's not superficial. Again, it's not doing it for show. Cultivation must be done well and genuinely. It's not just a name only. Cultivators must conduct themselves like cultivators, must have a breadth of mind. Okay, so very broad mind. Have we opened up or broadened our heart and mind yet? Okay, how many people are we able to accommodate, right? So or include or accept, right? Is our heart and mind like that of teachers, holy teachers, who can accommodate all sentient beings, right? So, well, the Buddha, any Buddha, will can accommodate all sentient beings, right? They feel as if the sentient beings are them. So obviously, they want to see the sentient beings transcend this samsara, the cycle of suffering, leave this bitter sea, right? So. But we as human beings, we tend to be a little bit more narrow, right? And we only think about maybe our family or those closest to us. We don't think about everyone, all sentient beings. So for us to really, we have to broaden that heart and mind, broaden that circle try to include as many as possible, all sentient beings. Ideally, there's no boundary. Okay. And then that is being like having the mind or heart of a Buddha. Okay, so when there is a lack of harmony between temples and between lineages, is this considered cultivation, right? So again, sometimes there can be, you can say there are differences between these temples and different lineages of the Tao, and people might say like, oh, that temple or that lineage, they're not, they don't have the mandate, for example, or whatever. Some people, they might have that view or the way that they treat other temples. So holy teachers saying, wow, is that cultivation? That's not, Cultivators must have a vast heart and mind, like the the 17th patriarch, Maitreya Buddha, for whom there is nothing that he cannot tolerate. So we have to be able to tolerate everyone as they are, accept them as they are. So yes, they have a different affinity that they practice maybe a little bit differently, things like that. But that's okay, right? Resentment and complaints easily give rise to hatred, and when there is hatred, it is impossible to attain the Tao. So have the achievement in the Tao. We cannot become a Buddha, right? So definitely we have to get rid of that, any kind of resentment, complaints, and hatred, right? Envy and jealousy also makes it impossible to attain the Tao. Okay, again, we should not be envious of or jealous of other. Oh, look at that temple! Wow, they have so many people. They whatever. Yeah, we cannot. We should not do that. Have that. Have that feel that way. When we see the good in others, we must emulate them. When we see the bad in others, we must self-reflect and introspect, right? So again, it's kind of like we have to take the good, and then when there's bad, we learn from that and reflect on ourselves. We don't start criticizing other people, right? So everything is kind of towards in on ourselves. Okay. Okay. So Okay, and then this is a different one here. Okay, so as we cultivate more, if we are getting more depressed and have more worries, then we just look like we are cultivating on the outside, but we have not purified our heart and mind, right? So cultivation, my holy teachers say, or Buddhists say, the more we cultivate, the more happier we should be, the more carefree we should be, right? If we start having more and more worries and start getting depressed, then that's then we're not cultivating right. There's something wrong, okay? So we're just only going through the motions on the outside. So again, the cultivation is really the important thing is the inside, the heart and mind, that we have to cultivate that, change that, purify it, okay? So we have not made the effort to self-reflect and introspect. If we have been performing external merits only, then it is just a form, and we will not be able to transcend life and death, see? So cultivation, right, we talk about internal and external, right? The external stuff, the external merits, yes, that's true. We do need that too, but we can't just do that and not, let's say, get rid of our temper, right? We say gai mao being chi pi chi, get rid of our temper and change our ways, right? Habits. So we have to work on the inside as well. That's at least as important, if not more. Okay. Cultivators must especially get rid of any hatred, as the three poisons, right? Greed, anger, ignorance are the root of hell, which we must cut off, right? So again, those are internal aspects that are very important. If, as we deal with matters and are easily angry and flash our temper, then we must realize that our cultivation ability is not up to snuff. Okay, so it's not. If because of someone's hurtful words or cruel and unjust treatment of us cause us to take it to heart or bear a grudge, then our heart and mind is not clean. So basically, as long as we cultivate well, we are guaranteed to return to absolute heaven. That's what Holy Teacher is saying. So, but cultivating again is that heart and mind. We have to purify, clean our heart and mind. Get rid of these three poisons. Get rid of the anger and things like that, right? The hatred. If there's any biases, we have to get rid of those. Okay, so again, it's a lot of things like when we show anger, things like that, it's like a reflection of what's it is a reflection of what's inside. I mean, when bad things come to us and we reflect it or react in kind of a bad way, then that shows that inside we are not clean, okay? So cultivation must result in a pure and tranquil heart and mind. 1 year ago, we may have had a strong attachment to a particular matter, but 6 months or a year later, we must be able to let it go, right? To be able to let go of these is called having no hang-ups and no hindrances. We're unfettered. And only then can we be considered to have excellent cultivation skills, right? Again, we have to, it's not to say that we don't, inside we don't feel bad about something, but we have to let it go. We have to be able to let that go, okay? No attachments to those things. Because those, if we can't let it go, they become an obstacle. They're going to hold us back in our cultivation. Otherwise, resentments grow deeper and we want to revenge, right? Which leads to bad karmic affinity. right? Common people seek to raise their standing in the world. How can they transcend the three realms? Yeah. So again, understanding that, yeah, if we want payback or whatever, that's going to create further this karma, this karmic cycle, and so we will not be able to transcend the cycle of reincarnation. Okay, so if we cannot achieve in cultivation, it is because we are too bound by human sentiments, right? So the emotions that kind of are dealings with people, there is only one truth. It is not ambiguous. Cultivation is the same. We must be certain. Holy Teacher's mandate for universal salvation is genuine, is real and genuine. Okay, there's not one bit of he's not fooling sentient beings. As long as we cultivate well, we are guaranteed to return to absolute heaven. So Holy Teacher, again, because he has that mandate that we receive the Tao, as long as we cultivate, he's guaranteeing us that we can return to transcend this cycle of life and death. Of course, how much, this cultivation, again, this is all talking about cultivation. So if we follow all these things, we do all the right things to cultivate, to improve ourselves, then we will be able to return to absolute heaven. Only Teacher is afraid that we do not have a true heart and mind, that we do not cultivate according to the rules and regulations. If we commit transgressions, then we must bear the burden of our karma, even if we think are right? And Holy Teacher cannot guarantee us, right? So in cultivation, we talk about being sure and practical, true merits, and goodness. Okay, although we can give consideration to both true principles and human sentiments, but in a critical moment, we must follow the standard of true principles and not be misled into the way of sentiments. Okay, so basically, that's why it's very important that we understand the rules and regulations of the temple, understand the principles that we learn here, so that we don't end up following a person, right? And because of sentiment because of our, let's say, because I'm good with this person, so I listen to this person. So that's very dangerous. That's what we call lunching Dao, which we follow a person, and even Buddha said you don't follow a person, right? You follow these dharma, you follow the teachings, scriptures, etc. Follow the precepts, and so we have to overcome that and say, it's. And just follow the rules and the principles. All right, so because time's up, we'll stop here. If I had said anything wrong or not well, I asked God and the Buddhas for forgiveness, and also transmitters corrections. Thank you.